it was Speedway, it was Hess, and one of the things you were not allowed to do was grow a beard.
Yeah.
Oh, it was the worst experience of my life. And then they sold the company to Speedway, and we were allowed to have beards, but my boss, the district manager, was like, "Oh, she was like lying, sending out emails telling us we still couldn't have beards, but like so many dudes in the district, like all the managers were already growing in their beards, and one guy like got like the Speedway handbook, and he's like, "We could grow beards, you're full of shit." Like we had to like fight for the right to grow beards.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, here we go.
All right, packing my.
All right, welcome everybody. This is going to be big episode number 20 here of the Marvel Madness Comics Podcast. I am Brandon, joined by Trevitt. How we doing, Trevitt?
Well, okay, I guess. Better today than I was yesterday.
A little delay to record, and we're doing this on like a Monday afternoon when it's usually a Sunday night. So this is why it's probably hitting you a little later than usual. But anyway, we're getting down to business here. We want to do a quick shout out to Alex M, who, if you guys go to the Twitter page at all or download the podcast, however you do, and you see the podcast art this week, that's the cover he made us. So yeah, shout out to him because that's pretty sweet.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, a couple inside jokes going on in there if you guys have listened, and you know how we do things, and if you're new here, well, you'll get it shortly. But anyway, we're going to get into our mission statement here, let you guys know how we review things, tell you how to contact us, and then get into a 4-book night here as we're going to get into what we do exactly. We have, again, 4 books in our lineup, and we continue to strive to fulfill this mission, providing you guys the ins and outs of the Marvel comic book universe. In between books, we chit-chat a little bit about some of Marvel's latest news, which we do have some. Tonight, some possible rumors, titles, characters, fun facts, and all that falls under the general going-ons of Earth Prime's umbrella. We try to cover a variety of titles each month for you guys in an effort to avoid any repetitiveness, in an attempt to keep things fresh and informative for the listeners. The books are divided into the following categories. We have the Spider Family, and we're going to be covering Amazing Spider-Man number 32 this week. We get back to the main events of that book, kind of, in a way. We got the Hero Family, which we've decided would be the Runaways number 1 title this week. So we'll tell you our thoughts on that. Trevitt covers the IVX section, and you're covering or picked which one?
Secret Warriors number 6.
6. Okay, I marked 7 on our notes here. A little inside the sausage there. My bad. So Secret Warriors 6. And then the event book we're going to cover real briefly for you this week is going to be Venomverse number 2. We decided against Secret Empire Omega. If you are interested in hearing that one, though, it was picked to win the Marvel Minute. You can find that over on the Weird Science DC Comics podcast, where we do a little Marvel Minute segment over there each week. So we ended up talking about it, despite not wanting to. I haven't decided if I'm going to add that as like an after credits thing here for number 20 or not. But we'll see. It depends how sick of editing I am by the end of everything today. Anyway, all titles are covered and rated honestly on our own opinions with the scale of buy, borrow, or forget it altogether. Buy it means buy it now. Borrow means get a code from a buddy or a friend. Forget it altogether means don't bother with the code or drop a dime on the book. You can pass it by without a worry in the world. And again, if you guys are looking to contact us, we got a mail section we'd like to get to at one point in time. If you have any thoughts or opinions or even want to suggest books we're possibly neglecting, we've had a few listener requests pop up that we've covered. You can get a hold of us on Twitter at MadnessMarvel1 or Gmail, and that's at MarvelMadness0. So, shout out us there. We'll be happy to take all requests for books. No bias there. We'll cover whatever, especially if it's something we haven't covered before. We just won't promise to know everything about it. I guess. Unless it's something we care to do some back research on. But don't let that stop you from suggestions anyway. So now that all that basic bitch stuff is covered and out of the way, I do want to say, I said, well, listening back, because I make sure all the edits are smooth and stuff from last week. Wrapping up, I said legs between the tail, I think, instead of tail between the legs.
I remember that.
And when I heard that part, I was like, oh man, that's a fucking boner right there. So I want to apologize for that, but you'll catch me saying a lot of things wrong in any recorded episode each week. So yeah, call me out. Those are fun. I called myself out there. I didn't want to let that one pass. So
I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be like the guy who always corrects people. So I just let it go.
No, I figured AA Ron would have nailed me on that because he loves my continuity when I messed that up. Did I say it right there? I don't even know.
Yeah, you did.
I was actually practicing that this week. I'm like, oh, I'm going to say this right one of these times.
Yeah, Aaron likes to bust people's balls. So
yeah, hey, I'll happily accept a ball busting. I do a lot of it's something I'm used to. Anyway, we're going to get into, now that all the basic stuff is covered, Trevitt's news section. So we'll be right back with you guys after our breaking news jingle.
Ba-ba.
All right, so go ahead. I'm coming in blind to this news section this week. I just have X's on the general notes because I don't think I sent them to you till like 5 minutes before we went on. So, so this will be straight cold reactions from me, although I think I know one of the things we'll discuss.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
Probably all three.
Let us know what the news is, I guess.
I have a feeling that the solicits are coming soon, and all the stuff is starting to trickle out because Newsarama and Bleeding Cool just can't help themselves. It makes me wonder if they get the stuff early or.
No, I think they do because they just get it from a previews catalog, and the comic shop always gets the preview catalog 2 to 3 days earlier. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how they get it. They got a few comic shops they're chummy with, but anyway, continue. I don't want to give Bleeding Cool too much publicity because they're kind of like douchey.
So first story, Marvel has been signing a slew of indie talent to exclusive contracts like Ed Brisson, Donny Cates, and Matthew Rosenberg, and giving them some killer books. So this story is about Matthew Rosenberg in particular, as is the next story. On December 27th, he's going to be writing a 5-issue miniseries about the return of the adult Jean Grey after 12 years of being dead, and it's called Phoenix Rising. The first issue will have art from Lionel Francis Yu, arguably one of the best artists in comics.
Yeah.
But according to Mark Paniccia, the head editor of X-Men comic books, the series is going to have 5 amazing artists. So I guess it's going to be something like Astonishing X-Men with all-star artists on each book, which I guess that's cool and all, but
I'm tired of that.
Me too. Me too.
It's like an excuse to not have an artist miss the deadline. Just be like, oh, we'll just put anyone we got on it.
Yeah.
It usually starts off good, and then you never know who you're going to get after all the good guys and the big names stop popping up, and it's like a grab bag.
Luckily, this is just 5. Like an Astonishing X-Men's 12 issues. So like I know a couple of the ones we're getting in the future, like Ramon Rosanes and Carlos Pacheco. But after that, I have no clue what the other 6 artists are going to be. So it literally could be anyone. But with this, thankfully, it's just 5 books. But it's scary that they haven't announced anybody. But Lionel Francis Yu kicking it off makes me happy. And
it's like they put it's like a bulk candy section. They put all the good shit in front, and they get you to come into it, and the cheap stuff's at the end. And by the time you get to the end, you're just like, well, it's cheap. I might as well get it.
Yeah. So I'm also not going to be surprised if it ties into the 05 Jean Grey's book, where she's been training for a confrontation with the Phoenix, not to mention the Generations issue where the two actually met for a little while. So that makes the Generations issue, well, that particular Generations issue, probably the best one so far because it actually leads somewhere.
The Jean Grey one or the Thor one?
The Jean Grey one. The Thor one was cool too because that leads somewhere. But now actually the Jean Grey one is a bridge to something too, instead of just being like willy-nilly they met. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, if they they acknowledge that they met, because they're gonna square off at some point.
It's gonna be one panel of them saying something cheesy that'll fucking piss us off, probably. That's what it's gonna be. Because those generation things are so, if it just feels like they're so thrown together and loosely tie into everything in the loosest way possible.
Yeah. I mean, all they do is tell you that something that you could already get from the books that the characters are in, like the all new Wolverine one, the shit that she's dealing with, you could get that from the regular. You don't need this Generations issue to tell you that you could already get it from the book itself. So like, what the fuck, right?
Yeah.
I guess the point, maybe they're just trying to like draw people into those books, but like I didn't read the Hawkeye one yet, and I haven't read the one that came out this week, the Captain Marvel one. Those are the ones that I'm fucking least interested in.
I don't want to bother either.
Especially after Civil War, that book just made me fucking hate Carol Danvers. So like, anything that she's in, I'm just like, I'm out. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because she still has that personality of like know-it-all asshole. Like, like,
yeah, she's been awful forever.
Yeah, she's been so fucking. I can't stand her. So, I mean, this from the news to my review, it's all about Matthew Rosenberg. So, like, the next story is so our last story was about Matthew Rosenberg, and so is this one, which seems fitting because I'm covering one of his books today. So again, this December, Matthew Rosenberg and Travel Foreman will be doing a new / old series called Tales of Suspense, reviving the classic Marvel title. The first story arc is going to be called Red Ledger, and it's going to run for 5 issues and follow Hawkeye and Winter Soldier on their mission to find out if Black Widow is really dead. This storyline was set up in last week's Secret Empire Omega, where Bucky was investigating an assassination where the MO strongly resembled Black Widow's. So, I mean, that sounds cool. I think Tales of Suspense usually, like, they'll have like their own story and then they'll shift off to something else entirely with different characters. So maybe like this 5-issue story arc is going to be the Black Widow story, and then the next story arc will be like something else entirely,
Yeah.
So we'll see. Because I mean, I have a ton of old Tales of Suspense stuff, and like some of it's like
they're bringing back a lot of like those old compilation type books, and it's weird that they're bringing titles back from legacy past, I guess you could say, but it's just, I don't know, it feels like, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It feels like they're just using it as a way to continue weird things that, and those books don't really have a long form story purpose. You know what I'm saying? Not traditionally. No. They're like one shot type things that you grab the character you want,
Yeah,
it's just weird to collect it as a whole long running story, I guess is what I'm getting to.
The way it looks right now is they're going to be like using it to like connect like lingering storylines from events and other books and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so I mean,
that people have been calling them out on forgetting and shit like that, I think.
Yeah. So this way, and it's like a nice little gimmick for legacy, because it's a legacy title, just like 2 and 1. And
yeah, you're right there.
So, but Matthew Rosenberg, I mean, I liked. I heard good things about his Kingpin, although they canceled it, so he had to rush the ending, and I heard people can tell. But there was a cool indie book he wrote. I think it was at Boom. I read called "We Can Never Go Home," about these 2 teenagers, one with superpowers and another kid who's just like fucked up in the head, which was pretty cool. And I like his Secret Warriors. He used to be a reporter for the New York Times. He is an award-winning reporter for the New York Times. And I read this cool thing about, I don't know if it's actually cool. It's kind of shitty, actually. But he was accused of espionage and working for the CIA in Blackwater. It's just like a fucked up story of like this guy's writing a story after being like having those accusations, and now he's writing a story about like people on a black ops mission. I was like, and he's doing the new Punisher book, the Punisher War Machine book. So I'm like, that's it's pretty fitting. So I can't wait to see what he does with those titles. But so next story is previously reported on Marvel 2 in 1 series following Johnny Storm and the Thing, but some new information has come to light. Now, when I first heard this, I thought, I didn't know it was going to be like them 2 in 1 story. I thought like maybe half the issue, I didn't know what was going to go on. Maybe half the issue followed Johnny Storm, maybe half the issue followed the Thing. I have no clue, but apparently, well, so I got 3 things. One is that Chip Zdarsky is going to be writing the book, which I really don't know how to feel about that, given the crap fest that is Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ. And 2, Jim Chung is going to be penciling it, which is crazy good news because he's one of my favorite artists and also arguably one of the best artists out there today. And finally, number 3, this book is going to be out about the search for the rest of the Fantastic Four, and Doom is the only thing standing in their way, which sounds pretty fucking cool. Now, I didn't know how to feel about this title, and the story sounds really awesome, but as I mentioned before, Chip Zdarsky is going to be writing it, so we're going to have to wait and see just how good it is. The premise sounds amazing, but
yeah,
we'll see.
And is this so? You still don't know if the second half of the book is going to be like the traditional 2-in-1, where it's a different story every time, or
no? Apparently, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, apparently, it's going to be just one story, Thing and Johnny Storm going on a mission to find Sue and Reed and the kids. So, and like Doom has like, you know, because Doom was God at the time. He knows where they is. He knows where they are. He knows where they are, and he knows how to get to them, right? And so they have to get that information out of Doom, and it's fucking Doom. They're not going to get that information. So it's going to be a big fight, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that sounds really interesting because, you know, I want the Fantastic Four back really bad. I mean, I know they wouldn't give the book to the person I really want to write it, even though he fucking deserves it, which is Al Ewing. But but this is cool because not only in this book, but they're also setting up some Fantastic Four stuff in Uncanny Avengers, which also stars Johnny Storm. So I think it's going to be one big cohesive story, hopefully. But Chip Zdarsky, like I've never read his Star-Lord. I heard good things, but his Spectacular Spider-Man, I fucking despise. So I just don't know how to feel about this book.
I've read some of his Sex Criminals, and it's not so over the top jokey like Spectacular Spider-Man. So I don't know what to think of him either.
Well,
I don't know if he's like
that's
trying
Matt
to
Fraction.
capture this weird. Oh, okay. Was it?
Yeah. Chip Zdarsky does the art.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So never mind what I said then.
Like I love Sex Criminals. It's fucking hilarious, and I identify so much with it because it has like all those like weird, awkward things, like finding porn in the woods when you were a kid. Like that shit made me laugh so bad because like when I was a kid and I used to walk through the woods, I would find fucking random porno magazines, or like me and my friends would like run through abandoned factories near where I live, and I'd find like left porn magazines, and I'm like, who leaves these porn magazines in the woods? And then when I read that book, I was like, Jesus Christ, like so much of this book is just hilarious and odd. Like everybody's like weird coming of age sexual experience.
But he didn't write it.
No, Matt Fraction wrote it, and he pencils it. Like he does all the art, and the art's great. But I don't know. He's only written 2 books that I know of as of right now, which is Star-Lord and Spectacular. And Spectacular is like, phew, it's probably why I haven't read Star-Lord yet.
Either. So
no.
Anything else there news-wise, or?
No, everything else is just like nothing much really. Just telling you shit you already know. But I suspect that after this week we're gonna have a ton of stories.
Yeah, we'll probably have a few more surprises. All right, so that wraps up some news. Cover that stuff for you guys. Finally, you know, a relatively busy week compared to past weeks gone by where we were kind of just making things up. And not that it was fake news or anything. It was just, you know, the tiniest of tidbits, nothing big like book announcements or anything, you know.
Fake.
Yeah. But we're going to move on to book section number 1, and we'll be right back. I scared the